Oto historia z kantem, co podwójne ma dno. Gdyby napisał ją Dante, to nie tak by to szło.
Our destination for the Erasmus is the city of Łódź, located in the center of Poland. It is the third biggest city of Poland, with more than 600,000 inhabitants. Łódź is an industrial city, and in the past it was one of the main textile centers of the world. We could consider Łódź a city with a lot of history, which is struggling to be rebuilt and renewed due to the damages of the Second World War. Łódź recovery is undoubtedly one of the most powerful and rapidly growing of Eastern Europe. Łódź has suffered in first person one of the most tragic war conflicts in history. For that reason, we have chosen the Second World War as the guiding thread of this documentary.
For this reason, the question that is going to lead our project is how World War II influenced the social and cultural life of the current city of Łódź.
In order to organize the information of our research, we have developed three objectives that structure the data collected. Our first objective is to analyze how the Second World War affected the city of Łódź and observe the traces left today.
To achieve this first objective, we have used historical data, drifts through the city, and analysis of cartographies of Łódź.
In 1941, the Germans constructed the Radygast train station in order to transport people to the concentration camps and extermination centers in the area. From the Radygast station, thousands of Jews were deported from the city. Despite the fact that nowadays the railroad track is not in use, the station keeps its original structure. The entrance of this station is a hallway with records of all the people transported during the different years of the war hanged on the walls. This way, it represents a tribute for the victims and is a reminder of the mistakes of the past. The last year of the decade is remembered for the German invasion. During the first months of the war, the army of Łódź defended the city, which surrendered to the Nazi army on November of 1939. 1 year after the invasion, the German army constructed the ghetto of Łódź. It was the second biggest ghetto following the one in Varsovia. It was originally built to gather Hebrew, Jewish, and Gypsy people, and isolate them from the rest of the city. The walls of the ghetto were constructed as a wooden fence with pointy wire to keep this sector of the population isolated. The sector of the ghetto hosted over than 164,000 people. On December of 1941 took place the first deportation of Jewish people from the ghetto to the concentration camp, where over than 55,000 people were murdered. Nowadays, on the sector where the ghetto was located, there are plaques on the floor that tag its area. During the summer of 1944, most of the population of the ghetto was deported. By the end of the war, only 10,000 from the 204,000 people that has ever been on the ghetto survived the Great War. The inhabitants of the ghetto organized their own government in order to survive. The president of this government was Rumkowski, who thought that survival was related with productivity. Due to Rumkowski's management, the ghetto of Łódź was one of the most productive of the Reich. In fact, in 1977, the ghetto hosted 70,000 inhabitants, being the one with more Jewish people and becoming a production camp.
In order to analyze the changes and evolutions that Lodz suffered due to the Second World War, we have selected a variety of cartographies in which we can observe these changes. These maps belong to the years before the war, from 1853 to 1939, to the years in which it happened, from 1939 to 1945 and to the years after, ending in the city we know today.
Our second specific objective is to study the changes of gastronomy after Second World War and analyze its evolution since then. To carry out the investigation of this objective, the methodology that we have used is based on, first, look for information about the changes that has suffered the gastronomy, and second, comparing the menus from different Polish restaurants and looking for the most common dishes and its nutritional facts. After investigating a little about the country's history, we have discovered that Polish gastronomy has been strongly affected by the three partitions suffered by the country from 1772 to 1795. These partitions caused Polish gastronomy to receive strong Oriental influences, proving to be similar to Russian, German, and Austrian cuisine. It is also thanks to the geographical proximity that Poland has with countries like Germany and the different Slavic countries that the cuisine of these has greatly influenced the Polish. We can say that due to this mixture of influences, Polish cuisine has a great use of spices, meat and pasta, stating that it is a fat-rich kitchen. The most common dishes are the different varieties soups, especially in winter, due to the harsh climate and low temperatures. After the Second World War, many restaurants were nationalized and the others were closed. Instead of these restaurants, the communists opened a network of different food houses for workers, as well as milk bars. The food houses promoted soups of all types, and meat with potatoes served as a main course was very important. Basic and daily ingredients such as meat, eggs, coffee, and tea became luxury items, and this situation made the traditional Polish cuisine gradually disappear. With the end of communism in 1989, the restaurants began to open again and easy and cheap fast food dishes appeared. The traditional dishes were also restored and the Polish gastronomy became the mixture and combination that we know nowadays.
The second part of this objective is based on comparing the menus from different Polish restaurants and looking for the most common dishes and its nutritional facts. After a walk through various restaurants in the area, we have reached the conclusion that currently the most common dishes in the typical Polish restaurants are the pierogies, which consist of stuffed pasta of different types and varieties of vegetables, the goulash, a spicy dish originally from Eastern Europe, presented in a plate of bread and made mainly with meat, onions, pepper and paprika, and the Polish soup, made with eggs, sausages, vegetables, potatoes and meat, among other ingredients. In this graphic, we can see the comparison of the nutritional information of each dish, including fats, carbohydrates, fiber, sugar, and proteins. Our third and last objective is to observe and analyze the artistic work and current urban art that is present in Łódź and its paper after World War II. The methodology that we have used to carry out this last objective is 1. Observation and analysis of urban art through drifts through the city, and 2. Surveys and questions to Polish citizens to know the paper of this work. Since we arrived to Łódź, we realized that the city was being renewed. Many streets were under construction, and much of the buildings looked old and in poor condition. However, we were very impressed with the use of urban art to beautify the city. Virtually every building has a graffiti or a mural embodied in one of its walls. After researching the role of urban art in the city, we discovered the Urban Forms Foundation project, whose objective is the promotion of independent artistic activities, using them as educational tools and social revitalization. This project is based on the saturation of the urban space, giving it artistic and original value. This use of urban space has reminded us of a reading made at the University of Lleida, The White Cube. In this text, in general, the lack of profit that is made of the walls of educational institutions is criticized. It is clear that art has flooded the urban space, giving it a higher value than one would expect. After a few weeks in the city, we began to enjoy the murals without being surprised by their presence. However, at the beginning of this project in 2009, the murals were somewhat unusual and created controversy among the inhabitants. Fortunately, over time, the expectation of people of Łódź regarding the layout of the space and the role of urban art have evolved. After asking several passengers who walked the streets of Łódź, we have learned that street art has been present in this city for many years. Polish people told us that before starting to see these artistic works already mentioned, in Łódź there was a lot of presence of graffiti related to political, economic, and even sport issues. This fact created controversy among Polish citizens, since this graffiti did not symbolize collective but individual feelings. Thanks to the appearance of projects such as the Urban Forms Foundation project, they tell us that the city, apart from looking more beautiful and colorful, has left these conflicts to a certain extent. Thank you all for watching. The production of this documentary helped us to realize how important is the environment and the context where a person is developing him or herself.
Statek piła tango, czarna bandera.